Hey, in this video, I am showing you guys how I did this boho barrel knotless braids into a bob. I love this hairstyle. It is super cute and my client loved it. But anyway, I am starting off with knotless braids. I'm simply just doing a whole bunch of knotless braids. And those of you guys who've been following me on my channel have seen details of how I do my knotless braids. As you guys know, I have my hair prep to the side on my braiding rack. Everything that I'm using will be in the description box below. And the playlist of me doing knotless braids or just doing them in a bob is also going to be in the description box. And I'll also put a card in the right hand side right about here. As you can see, I am just braiding it down. I'm braiding it actually to her mid back or a little under her mid back. I am using like a bob length type of braiding hair. Again, everything that I'm going to be using will be in the description box, but I'm braiding it all the way to the tip simply because I want to dip it and then do the barrels at the ends of her hair, and you have to have some type of length. But just keep in mind, if you're doing like this bob length, I would say do right under mid back. If you're doing a bob like I am, if you plan on having barrel ends for more mid back, I would say braid it like right under your waist length so you'll have enough to wrap. But just keep in mind, the more braid, the more weight it will be on the barrels, so you don't want it to be super chunky. I want to say that the very end, like when I say mid back, it's not much of a, it's more like of the tail end of the braid. It's not like thick like it is when I start the knotless braid. It pretty much thins out, and you want it to thin out because again, when you do the barrels, you do not want them to be super heavy at all. So, and the more hair you feed in, the more heavy hair it get. So just keep that in mind. So again, if you're doing bob length, go right under bra length, mid back length, and you want to make sure that it's skinny. You do not want a thick braid all the way to the mid back. You want it to be pretty much feathered already, starting to get thin. And if I'll just keep an eye on just watching how I do these knotless and you'll see what I mean. But you do not want them thick because you do not want to be wrapping super thick, causing all that weight. So yeah. But right here you just see me just doing the knotless braid. I did speed it up because you guys have seen me do this before. But as you can see right here that the braid has thinned out. Again, I am using more of a bob length type of hair because I don't want it to be thick. If I use like a 42-inch, then like hair, it would be still giving a little bit thickness, but you want to add small pieces. I also want to show you guys like a braiding pro tip. You can use the top part of your rat tail comb like I did here, flip it over, and you see you get about the size that you want for your parts when you're doing knotless braids. So I did want to give y'all a little hint of a little parting technique in case you are not good with doing the grid as far as like parting for your braids. If you are finding value in this video, please hit that subscribe, like, also join the members only, so you can get exclusive content. But yeah, make sure you subscribe if you're finding value in this content. But as you can see right here, I am just doing the knotless braid. I am not adding in any curly pieces because I want my client to have the flexibility to remove them if she gets tired of them, because they are going to be synthetic curly pieces. She actually really loves them. She doesn't have any issues or anything like that. But I like for my clients, especially when I'm using synthetic type of curls, to have the flexibility to be able to just cut them out, which where if I was to just braid them in, you would not have that flexibility to do so. You more so, I mean, you can cut them, but you just want to make sure that whatever's coming out isn't sticking out. But that's more for if you're using human curly pieces and not synthetic or blend. That is a good brand that's not going to be all messed up. I personally don't have any problems with the boho pieces. People think that they're supposed to look like perfection in a way of like hair, and I just don't feel like that. I think Megan Good had showed like a good example of like you want to look kind of like a boho hippie-ish, but some people just want it to look straight the entire time or a defined curl, and I get it because when these do get matted, you do want to make sure you clip and snip off any knots. But for the most part, if you're taking care of it, you won't have any issues. I do have a video on how I do remove curls if they are becoming more of a hassle, the synthetic curls. So it'll also be in the description box, but I'll put a card here on the right so you guys can click it when you're done watching this video. I'm just pretty much showing you guys how I did all the knotless braids until completion as far as this step. So continue to watch so you can see how I did the barrel twists and the curls and all that good stuff. Now we are moving on. I've already did a couple of the Bantu twist knots at the ends, or the barrel twists at the ends, whatever you guys want to prefer to say. But I am showing you how I just bend it upward, and I'm meeting it with the other Bantu twist that I already started. We've already discussed the length that she wanted to go with, and this is the length that she wanted as far as her bob. You can decide if you want an asymmetrical bob or whatnot, but you see I just wrap up and then wrap down, and then I'm going to secure it with a rubber band. One thing that I did do that I wish I did not do was I had dipped this hair in hot water. I wish I would have did the barrel twist first. So I want to say do the barrel twist first, and then you're going to see me dip them again in hot water, and that will seal it together once you place the rubber band on. But you can see I just flip it up to the length desired. I wrap all the way down to the top, and then I wrap back down because I still just want it to be at the tip, and you want to make sure that it's tight, really tight, really tight. And the only reason why I can dip her hair up to this point as far as extension is because her natural hair is not nowhere near this length. It's shorter than this length, and I can do that. If her hair was about this length, I would not recommend dipping these knots or the braids in boiling hot water at all. So I can do that with this client because her hair is a shorter length. But if your client's hair is the length of the bob, do not dip. You can simply just still do the barrel twist, wrap it around, and then rubber band it, make sure it's secure, and just cut all the frizz off. I only do the dipping to get the frizz away. And I want to say frizz, I want to say the little parts that sometimes stick out of the braid. You want to make sure that you dip it just to make it look more seamless. But either way, they both look seamless. If you want to see a video of me not dipping it, I'll have a card as well of me doing a Barbie ponytail, and you can just see what I mean when I say don't dip it. The reason why I kind of regret dipping it before doing the barrel twist is because I had to secure it immediately. Which where if I would have just waited after I did all the barrel twists, it would have just stayed before I wouldn't have had to secure it with the rubber band. I would have just dipped it and then secured it with the rubber band. Or I could have secured it with a rubber band and then dipped it. And I want to say it slowed me down having to really like make sure that these were really tight, which where if it wasn't tight, it would have just been more easier because it wouldn't have been as slippery. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I do respond back to anybody that's commenting below that's being polite, if you will. And if you're finding value in this video, again, hit that subscribe button. Also, check out my merch. I love my merch. I really designed all of it. And go ahead and get y'all some orders. You know, I got some stuff, you know, a mug here or a shirt or whatever. Yeah, I am just continuing to do the barrel twist ends. And then I'm going to show you guys how I secured it even more outside of using the rubber band. I did speed it up because, you know, it's a repetitive thing that I'm just doing until I get done with her entire head. I do want to say that you want to make sure that your client's head is looking straight forward. You want to make sure your client isn't slouching because that will mess up how the bob length will look. You want to make sure they're facing forward, neck straight, and everything. So that way you have it down as far as the length and it's not looking like one is longer than the other, because they're slouching. Best believe that you're going to have to redo it. So you want to make sure that your client is looking forward and is in statue mode. Once I get done doing that, while I wait for my kettle to heat up, I like to go over my client's scalp and I put a glob of grease all over her scalp and make sure it's nice and moisturized because I'm about to dip her ends, but that's just a time saver. So that's what I like to do when I'm waiting for that kettle to get hot. I start to clean up and I oil my client's scalp and all that stuff. I put a lot one way, and then once I get done doing it one way, I just put it to the side and I put my fingers through it and make sure that each part is coated with some type of grease. And you see here, you only need a little bit. I do use my little, this is my hair spoon, and then I just go like that throughout the whole hairstyle. And I like to do that before I add the curls because I don't want the curls to be real oily and heavy. So I like to do this part after. If I do insert it, I do more light. Like if I put the curls in first, then I do more light. But now I am sitting here just, you know, trimming up the little hairs around the knots. You can see it still get a little, you know, a little frayed once you do that. But I'm just trimming off all the excess hair that may be sticking out while I wait for that kettle to be done. Be careful and make sure you do not cut one of your barrel twists while you are doing this process. Just make sure you take your time and just carefully just cut the little frizz off. Of course, because I am dipping the hair, you won't see a lot of this at all. Once it's dipped, it'll be more sealed. But this is what I was saying as far as like, you know, doing the barrel twist and then cutting off the little bit, a little stick out, you know, the little flurries, the little parts. Just make sure you just trim them up and make sure you are taking your time because these, you do not want to cut a braid or cut someone's hair in this case, you know, her hair is shorter. But if her hair was long and I cut this barrel, most likely I'll be cutting my client's hair. Now I'm going to show you guys me just dipping the barrels in hot water. And again, her hair isn't in any of this part, her natural hair. So, and I just did so like that. Then I go back over and re-secure it because I don't want the rubber band to pop. Because you know, once you dip it in hot boiling water, you might have a chance of these rubber bands popping. So I go ahead and secure her whole head again with rubber bands. But I don't think I would have had to secure it twice if I wouldn't have initially dipped all her knotless braids in the beginning. So that's what I mean when I say, you know, sometimes these steps matter, but I'm just showing you guys if you didn't take the proper steps, then that's what I would do. But usually once you got done with the knotless, you know, braids, I would have did the barrels and I wouldn't have dipped it. I would have did the barrels and then I would have dipped it. Then I would have secured it with a rubber band. And that is the order that I would have done. Now I'm adding in the boho curls. And you see I am just using my crochet hook. She has two colors, I believe. One is like an ombre 27 or 30. And then the other color is a number 4, which is the color of the actual braids. And I just wanted it to look really cute like that. And you can make this boho curl as heavy, or when I say heavy, I mean as full or as lightly put as you want. It is really up to you. I am going for a more full look. I did start on the third row up from the back and started adding in those boho curls. I don't like to add the boho curls on the back 2 rows of braids simply because the rubbing of the on the neck and or the nape area. I didn't want that to be an issue with the curls, so I usually go up to the third row and I add in the curls. And I would do this whether it was synthetic or human hair. I simply just don't want the curls to be all mangled up, so I always do the third row whether I'm using synthetic hair or if I'm using human hair. And right now I am doing one curl strand per braid or every other braid, just to start off light as far as the fullness. And then I go back in those same braids. I alternate colors and I put two curly strands on each braid. So I put one curly strand at the top and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to put a curly strand at the bottom part of each braid that I put curls on. Once I am done with that, you see that all the curls are longer than the actual braid. So I'm going in right here and I am just cutting off all of the excess hair that's past the actual barrel braids because I want them to be at the same length. And you see, you could barely see the braids in the curls. That's how heavy it is. And I'm just making sure I'm being very careful when doing this process so I don't cut the braids and that I'm cutting the length that I want for these curls. So really take your time when doing this process and just cut it all to the same length. But to be honest, it's really up to you. If you want the curls to be past the braids, it'll make them look like see-through the curls. But if you want the curls to be shorter than the braids, you can do that. But I want it all to fall at the same length because I want it to look nice and full. Once I am done, I then go over it with some mousse because I want these curls to be more put together, more defined. You can also go over the curls with some Got to Be gel, the one in the black. You can go through each curl and do that, but I really don't do that unless that I just can see the synthetic curls are like a problem or if I feel like my client wouldn't be able to maintain it. But for the most part, I do tell all my clients to use some mousse or holding some type of setting lotion foam and just go over. But once you define it and run your fingers through, you see I am back cutting again because everything's now defined and laying straight. So now I'm just giving it finished touches and I'm just trimming it up some more to just make sure. And I'm just swirling these curls around and really giving it some body yaddy yaddy. So yeah. Now I'm doing my finishing touch and I'm just spraying it all with some oil sheen all over. My clients love this oil sheen. It smells so good. They always say, I love that part. And then I just, I keep the perfectionist in me. I just make sure it's all looking good. And I also want to say when you're doing the cutting process, make sure your client's head is straight up. Like when you did the bob for the barrels with the barrels, you got to make sure they sitting up straight. So it all be laying how it needs to lay. And then I'm just doing some baby hairs. Now, I'm not going to say I'm a master. I don't want to call them baby hair, adult hairs. I'm not a master adult hair edging girl, but I do know how to swoop. And I'm just swooping it in, just making them look nice and sleek. Just doing the finishing touches. And then we about to be seeing the finished product. Because when I tell you, it is so cute. I love this hairstyle. I think this is my new favorite hairstyle. And here's the finished product. Oh my goodness, doesn't she look beautiful? I love this hairstyle. And if you want to see more of my content, here goes some playlists so you guys can check it out. See you on the next one. Peace and hair grease.